solving the issue of protection gap in India and its ramification on the Indian economy, taking these discussions forward in this very special segment that has been sponsored by Bajaj Allianz. May I please extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Hitesh, Kotak, Chief Executive India, Middle East, Africa and Munich Re, Mr. Amit Agarwal, CEO and Managing Director at Howden Insurance Brokers India Private Limited. Please put your hands together for Mr. Debabrata, Satpathy, General Manager Finance at Petronet LNG Limited. Let me also present to you our moderator, Mr. T.A. Ramalingam, Senior President and CTO, BAGIC. A round of applause for all our speakers here. We have received apologies from Mr. Ajit, Horra, Director, Prudent Insurance Brokers Private Limited. He had to step off, but he sends his best wishes to the entire panel here. Gentlemen, all yours.
Thank you, and good evening to all my panelists. Really privileged to be actually moderating this elite panel. Consisting of reinsurers, brokers, and the client. I think what more can we expect? I think when we look at this issue of solving the issue of protection gap in the Indian economy and the ramifications on the economy, Indian protection gap acts as a pit stop in India's growth momentum, which currently stands at more than 90%. Basically, we are seeing the disparity between the insured and the uninsured is as high as 90%. While at the individual level, the government has been taking a lot of measures to boost the insurance penetrations for the underserved population, I think we are still a long way off. Corporates today are actually susceptible to a lot of cyber attacks than ever before, and we do see the same applicable to individuals too, because I think when we read the newspapers every day, we see a lot of news articles talking about the cyber attacks on individuals. Governments today are actually burdened with increasing frequency of NatCat events, and that leads to a lot of loss, be it personal or property. And I think that's what we feel that this panel is going to have a detailed discussion about, and that's where I request all the panelists to bring out their own experiences dealing with these kind of events and to give some practical aspects to that. Now, coming back to the current scenario of such a large protection gap, what do you see are the major contributors to this large gap? Maybe Amit, we can start with you.
Thank you, Rama sir. It's a privilege to be here and speaking to all the dignitaries. See, as you rightly mentioned, the Indian protection gap around NatCat events is in excess of 90%, 93%, let's say. And if we talk about data from 18 to 22, this figure would be more than $32 billion. And if we add 23 in it, it would be even more. There are, of course, a lot of measures that the government can take, but it's not just property that we are looking at. I mean, if you really see, we're talking about a population of 140 crore plus. Health is a big issue right now. Life is a big issue. NatCat events are certainly there. There is a huge protection gap in MSMEs as well, right? I mean, we're always talking about natural catastrophes or the large things, or we're talking about the bottom of the pyramid and the health schemes and the life schemes. But these mid-level corporates are totally left. Insurance companies are struggling to get that last mile right. Insurance brokers are really struggling how to basically penetrate that market because it's really remote and inaccessible, so to say. So there are a lot of government reforms, so to say, first of all, which is required for such things. And if you go deep in it, NatCat, of course, pools can certainly help. We've experimented with certain pools, and they have certainly added a lot of value and strength to that particular risk area. If we talk about agriculture health, I'm sure we will talk in detail about it, but these are some areas where we have taken some very good steps. But penetration has always been an issue, and I think the government reforms or push from the government's end is something that is going to make or break how these protection gaps can be filled. If need be, certain type of products could probably be made mandatory, just the way we have it for some professions. It aids the overall growth of the insurance market. which simply means that better penetration can be achieved,
Yeah.
the pricing for that same kind of risk can be come down, more data to analyze.
Yeah.
So net, I think the product innovation, technology, government reforms, and collaboration between all the providers, that is reinsurers, insurers, clients, brokers. I think everybody has to work together to be able to come up with a formidable solution for bridging this gap.
Thank you, Amit. I think you put it very rightly. I think these are the various stakeholders involved in this whole game which can actually make a lot of contribution to bring down this overall protection gap. Now coming on to from the client side, I think there is a large protection gap. What do you see as far as the ramifications to the economy is concerned? How do you look at it from the economy point of view?
Yeah, to set the context, basically the gap today we are talking about overall is around 30 billion US dollars in India, and it is next to China in the Asia Pacific region, which is about 75 billion US dollars. So, looking at this kind of gap, if we talk about real peril happening of 10 to 20%, there could be a load of about 3 to 6 billion dollars every year on the economy if it is not insured. So with that context, let's talk about insurance in a general manner. Insurance is actually a contribution of many for the loss of a few, basically. And when this contribution happens, it starts at a local level, then goes to the country level and to the global level. So whenever there is a peril, probably the global people could be paying for that peril, right? And it is not stuck in the country. And if it is not insured, then either the, like if you take the example of crop insurance, either the burden is to be borne by the financial institutions or the government. So we are talking about a $30 billion of a gap on the economy, which is talking to go up to $5 trillion in 2026. So it's a big dent on the economy. So that is the kind of basically impact we are talking about. So the context has been set rightly, everybody has to do their bit to get this, somehow get this gap insured and take this liability towards the global markets rather than keeping it in the local liability segment. So this is what is the impact we are talking about.
Okay. So thank you, Satpathy ji. I think what you're talking about is to see to it that how can insurance and maybe to some extent the reinsurance bring about bridging this gap, trying to see how we can reinsure with the foreign reinsurers so that overall burden within the country doesn't lie too much. Now coming on to the, I think Amit also talked about natural disasters. I think that's a very important question nowadays, because if you see in this year itself, we have had nearly 7 or 8 events, starting off with Michong, Delhi floods, Himachal floods, and Hyderabad floods, and you name it. I think most of the states had some or the other floods impacting the overall industry, not only the insurance but also the uninsured assets. Now, when you look at it, how do you think insurance has played a crucial role, both nationally as well as globally? Because you also take care of your Middle East and Africa markets. And how do you see this playing over, be it on the global level or at the India level? I think that would be very interesting to hear from you. What are the things that can be done to counter this losses that are actually impacted by natural disasters?
Thanks, Ramasa, for asking this question and also for having me in the panel. I think reinsurers being at the end of the value chain, we often don't find ourselves in the front, but happy to be here. I think both my fellow panelists set the right context, and I think if you again get into the numbers, then we are in the last 20 years, our country has seen the third most number of disasters, natural disasters in the world. Now, for an economy which is young, growing fast, of course, but still young, I think it's too much of a burden for us to pay. And if you really look at the impact of climate change, and we all talk about impact of climate change, I think we feel the most. And also on top of it, because we have been a fast-growing economy, the level of urbanization has been much more rapid, and hence sometimes also a bit unplanned. Obviously, because we have to catch up and we have to move really fast. So if we combine the two factors, we did a little study and we found that we were 7th most vulnerable as an economy in terms of getting impacted by natural disasters. And like you said, 2024, although we didn't see one big event, but we saw so many small eight events, and across the country. We started with Biparjoy cyclone, which thankfully, made a turn at the last minute and not impacted our country so much, but it did still leave its traces behind. And we had a lot of floods, a lot of cyclones, and a massive event even in Sikkim. So I think overall, if we put together, we already saw economy loss of more than 44,000 crores just in this year. And how much did insurance sector cover? Probably about 8,500. So not even 10% that you mentioned, was like between 5 to 6%. So considering the context of our economy growing so fast, it being vulnerable to climate change and urbanization, I think the sense of protection and sense of us having the adequate means becomes really important. And I think, like you rightly said, there are a lot of examples and a lot of ways in which this can be done. I think every time it's always easy for us to put the things on government, that government should do this, government should do that. Of course, they should do. But I think apart from that, there's a lot of scope for private-public partnership in this space. And we've seen significant examples. And I'd like to share an example of Turkey, because we again saw an earthquake in Turkey at the beginning of the year. I think Turkish government had envisaged this many years back, and they had actually set up a pool solution, which was a contribution coming from the government, but also significantly from the private players, but also the end users. So even each and every resident, along with whenever he or she would register his or her house for property tax, would pay a little premium, and then that premium was topped up by the government, and I think that pool was created. And what was the impact of that? The moment loss happened, immediately the pool was able to pay, and the country otherwise could have gone into a very bad deficit, actually was able to revive itself very quickly from an economic standpoint. Very few months later, we saw similar thing in Morocco. Again, same, there was a pool solution, and in fact in Morocco even better, it was a parametric solution. And for those who have not much idea of parametric solution, in a parametric solution, you set the trigger, and if the trigger is hit, you make the payout. And I think they visualized this situation, and this was a trigger-based payout, and within 14 days, the money was, with the municipal bodies, with the government, and with the end users. So I think to sum up the story, I think we are vulnerable to natural disasters. That's no denial to that fact. We are seeing high frequency of events getting affected by that. And I think we need to really ramp up our approach in terms of bridging this gap, either through public-private partnership or just by creating more awareness, which is again an onus on all of us, that we need to create more awareness about our products. And it's not that, and not that we want to be self-critical about it. It is very difficult to push insurance product. Many of you in this hall would not think of waking up in the morning and say, "Aaj main insurance kharidunga," right? And it's a tough proposition to purchase, because it's difficult for a seller to imagine yourself in a difficult situation and collect money from you, right? So it's a tough product, and hence I think insurance companies have made a lot of effort in creating awareness and distribution. But still, it's that tipping point has not reached, and I think for us to reach the tipping point, that one last effort will be required in terms of also consumers getting the awareness, building the awareness of these products, at a next level, and of course our responsibility will be to make simple products, good claims processes, so that we can make timely payments.
Thank you, Hitesh. I think, as we always say, insurance is more a push product rather than a pull product. But thank you very much for giving the insights, especially the example of Turkey that you gave. I think that can give a lot of food for thought for our policymakers to see to it that if something similar can be worked out. I think we have always been talking a lot about cat pool and things like that, and maybe looking at the number of cases or number of frequency of these events coming in the current year itself. Maybe it needs to be revived to see to it that how we can come out with some kind of a pool like that, and how does it make sense. I think obviously after a lot of deliberations we'll come out with something which is very practical and in line with what India needs. Amit, I think coming to you, you talked a lot about health insurance, and that's the next thing I wanted to ask, that there's been a big push by the government as far as the mass health scheme is concerned, basically the Ayushman Bharat, which has actually touched nearly more than 50 crore population. However, today the emerging challenge as far as the gap in protection is related to the missing middle. I think there is a particular section of the population which is not getting covered either by the government schemes or by the individual, health insurance schemes which are actually peddled by the insurance companies. Now, what could be done effectively to address this section of this population?
Perfect. So you rightly said the missing middle, let's say, right? About 30% of the population, about 40 odd crore people who are sort of the missing middle or probably fall in the blind spot of the policymakers, let's say, right? Because they are not below poverty line, so they are not thought about. And they are not the middle class who everybody is creating products for, or the affluent middle class who have money to spend. These people have come out of the bottom of pyramid, but have still not been able to make to that strata where they're coming in the radar of let's say the product creators or let's say the consumer market providers. Now, I think again, as Hitesh rightly said, that we should not leave everything to the government, but health. I would like to take a step back and say health is probably, after motor, health is probably one policy that touches an individual or a family the most as a product. I'm leaving life aside for a minute. In here, at this point in time, there has been a lot of awareness creation done with the help of insurance companies. A lot of advertisement has been done, and probably COVID helped, because at that point in time, suddenly what probably would have taken us about a decade was achieved in next 3 or 4 years' time. Right? The penetration of online or the e-commerce in the insurance space grew well. But even today, the process of buying insurance is quite difficult, right? You go to a platform, you are thrown 50 options, and then all those 50 options have 50 different types of coverages mentioned over there, which a lot of people would not understand. Even sometimes I get confused, right? So if, first of all, decluttering the market, wherein we are able to create simple products which are specifically designed for certain needs, that's one. The distribution model has to be set right, wherein on a minimal information gathering, we are able to create a product and be sold. Thirdly, affordability, right? A lot of times, we feel 10,000 रुपया दिया, साल के end में claim नहीं किया, कुछ वापस नहीं आया, पैसे waste, right? Insurance is that kind of concept. You don't want to utilize that money because it simply means that you are going through a very rough patch, right? But this is how mind works, right? And can this 10,000 be 8,000 or 6,000? Premium financing, for example. I mean, that's an amazing tool which a lot of other economies are using. So instead of paying 10,000 rupees in one go, if you're paying 1,000 rupees every month, it doesn't pinch you. And it still gives you the same kind of benefit of buying a health insurance policy. Now, so I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done. The platform is set. We are touching almost $3,000 per capita GDP. A lot of researchers have shown that if any economy's per capita crosses this $2,500, $3,000 mark, discretionary spending increases, right? And in India, unfortunately, insurance is considered to be a discretionary spend, right? So again, in the health, we will see two segments. One, which is either corporate provided or the individuals who are going by. That's one. And then the government schemes. So whatever I just spoke is probably for those people who are more aware, who wants to go out and buy product for themselves, or who are getting it from the corporates. Now, coming to the government side, right? I think we will probably have to help, and as Hitesh said, that probably a public-private partnership, wherein very broad level, central level schemes have to be created with very identified pool of people, right? We say that, let's say, affluent to a certain section gets this kind of coverage, and they probably end up paying a bit more. The middle segment gets a certain kind of cover, and they end up paying a little less, and the bottom of the pyramid has a totally different scheme. Because the need of all these three segments are also probably very different, right? So I think if that kind of work is done, of course, this would help. Secondly, a lot of time we've seen that central state governments take a lot of initiatives. That effort is taken, the first step is taken, 3 years implemented, and then taken back, right? So I think more sustained efforts have to be taken for these things to grow, because if you're talking about insurance to become a $450 billion industry in the next 10 years' time, I would reckon that health would be one of the largest contributors after life, right? So for that, there is a lot of effort that everybody has to really put up.
Yeah. No, thank you, Amit. I think it was a very...
Sir, if I may,
yeah.
just add to what
Please,
Amit
yeah,
said,
please.
because I think another aspect of health insurance has also been how do we make it more affordable. And today we all know from our own experiences that when we go to the hospital and we say that mere paas insurance hai, we all know that our bill goes up by 25-30%. So what is basically happening is that the 30-35% of the insured population is actually ending up paying a lot more to the hospitals, and then it's coming back as a cost. So I think the moment it becomes much more widespread, I think the affordability also can be addressed, because today, unfortunately, the insurance who is buying insurance are also paying for those who are not buying insurance in terms of the health segment. And again, I'll use my experience of other markets, and Gulf countries have again done it magnificently well, because they are the countries of migrants and expats. They did not want to take the burden of providing health insurance to the expat population. So basically what they said is that every company should buy mandatory health insurance for its employees. So again, here now the government is not contributing anything. They're just making it employers to be conscious and buy insurance for their employees. Even simple thing like that, if we do, for our market, and assuming we take the self-employed out, still, it's a massive spread, and I think that will again help us in producing the costs down.
Absolutely. I think, thank you very much to both of you for the inputs given. I think if you look at it, health insurance took off in a big way after COVID, because during the COVID, the industry paid nearly 30,000 crores of claims. And people realized the importance of health insurance. Obviously, the challenge now today is that how do we reach out to the missing middle? And some of the points both Amit and Hitesh talked about is something a lot of people are trying to do. There's a lot more to be done. But we can take some kind of examples from the Middle Eastern countries and things like that, where we can try and see how the penetration towards overall health can be improved much larger. If you see today, motor insurance used to be one of the biggest business mix in the country. Today, health has overtaken it. Health is now close to 38% of the overall insurance industry business. Motor is around 32-33, which used to be the other way around maybe till a couple of years back. But health is getting more and more important. I think the way both Hitesh and Amit talked about the numbers, I'm sure health someday is going to touch 50% of the overall industry business. And this is big business, and the day that happens, the overall penetration is going to go up in a very, very big way. So thank you very much for that. Now coming on to Satpathy ji, I think on the corporate part, I think one of the biggest challenges that we are talking about is cyber. Today, everybody is talking about cyber because giving the increasing number of cyber incidences. It is today listed as the topmost risk for the CXOs, and you being the overall finance head there for LNG Petronet. I'm sure you must be having sleepless nights trying to get a cover for cyber for your company. Now, how do you think that the insurance industry can evolve to meet the growing demand for cyber insurance? Because obviously there is a demand and supply gap out there. So your views on that?
Yeah, so I would start with re-quoting Amit. COVID helped here. But the story is quite different. That's it. I think that is the only similarity between health and cyber. So before the COVID came, we were being told about taking a cyber insurance. We were being demonstrated in our office. You will be very surprised to know we were demonstrated how our emails can be hacked. People showed me how emails can be hacked and they can get into our system. So we were reluctantly thinking about taking a cyber insurance and all. So we thought, chalo, let's take a cyber insurance just before COVID. And then the COVID stuck. After that, we have landed in a situation where people want to take it and there is no capacity. Now, why this capacity is not there? We thought that, okay, cyber insurance is in its nascent stage and it will develop and it will grow as time comes. But due to COVID, that time frame was not there. It had to develop in a leaps and bounds way. And what I think is there is no basically knowledge. I mean the knowledge dissemination from the insuree to the insurer and the gap between the reinsurance market and the insurer. So that is creating this kind of havoc right now. We talk about, say, for a corporate like us, when we go to the market, getting some decent coverage for our cyber risk at a decent price. We are not. We are told that okay, price we will talk about it later, but let's talk about the coverage, whether we are getting it or not, because there was so much losses during this time. Because when people wrote these insurance policies, the insurers and the reinsurance market also could not fathom what kind of actually the claims will come. And the COVID accelerated it, basically. So now, from here onwards, what should happen is, basically, 3-4 things can be done. One is, of course, there has to be, awareness has to be created. The insurers and the reinsurers should not take it for granted that the insurer would be knowing about it. Actually, it is a continuous process because it is evolving still, first of all. Second, like I would give you an example of the crop insurance and the other geo-related calamities. Now we are able to, monitor these through satellites, right? It's a common concept in the insurance industry that through satellites we are monitoring how the crop will go and how the NatCat issues will be there in few years of time and all those things. So something kind of that has to come in the cyberspace as well. It has to be, it should not be reactive, basically. It has to be very, very proactive, and it has to be proactive up to a point of 5 to 10 years hence. And that kind of awareness has to flow. And third, actually, it has to be, the custom-made solutions will not do. The tailor-made solutions have to come over here, because, different people could be having different industries and different companies, even individuals, could be having the need of a different kind of a solution. So the insurers need to be very proactive so as to basically sit with the clients and provide them with the stitched out, model to them, stitched out solutions to them, which is tailor-made to their own requirements. So I think these are the things need to be done, and these are to be done very fast, because people are not getting insurance in the cyberspace. So that's what is my stake in this.
Thank you, Satpathy ji. And any points with Amit or Hitesh you want to add on this cyber issue? Because there is a protection gap as far as, what Satpathy ji was talking about. There is a issue out there. Maybe some solutions or some points that you would like to point out.
No, I think Satpathy ji said, hit the nail on the head. I think the issue on cyber is not so much about demand, it's more about the supply. It's a supply constraint that we face. And I think he nicely elaborated all the steps, that need to be taken. And just to give you the assurance, they are being taken, So just to give you an idea, we as, reinsurers, we have invested heavily in hiring, secret service agents to monitor dark web. We've hired a lot of security experts to understand the risk better, because only if we understand the risk better, only if we know what is kind of happening at the dark web, can you understand and fathom the risk and then start to, price the risk. I would say there's a lot of decent progress, being made. And, like in everywhere, I think it will be the question of arriving at the right price. Today, unfortunately, because of the supply being limited, the price is very high. And then whoever wants to buy does not end up buying and paying for that high cost. So I think somewhere we'll have to strike a balance of adequate risk transfer and start with some solutions and then kind of build it on as we do for all the new products and solutions.
Yeah. So I'll just add it more from the distribution point of view. Give or take, there are about 1,500 cyber policies in the market today, of various sizes. The smallest being, let's say, $500,000, the maximum being $250 million. And these are all corporate policies that I'm talking about. And there is an individual cyber product also available. Bajaj is one of the foremost underwriters of that product in the market today. We believe that this 1,500 could very easily become 5,000 in next 2 to 3 years' time, right? And the large corporates, I mean, I would say, let's say, top 500 companies in the country, they probably already are talking about it or are in advanced stages of buying this product. And probably everybody is talking to them about it. The insurers, the large brokers, probably the reinsurers, everybody's talking to them because they are the ones who are going to spend more on this one. Again, just like anything, the middle market is where the growth is actually there. The middle market has to start adopting this. And a lot of times when there is a change in government policy, that is when middle market starts adopting these kind of risk mitigation things. Cyber, I mean, just like any corporate should have health insurance for their employees, and any listed company should have a directors and officers policy for their firm, cyber is one insurance, eyes shut, everybody has to buy, should buy, right? Irrespective of the size. A lot of times we go and tell the client that you must buy cyber, arey bahut mehenga hoga. I said, it's not about money. What do you want to spend, right? There are two things how you can buy this policy. One, you would say, I want $100 million worth of cover because that's right for my organization, and I'm ready to pay whatever price it comes at. And the second one is, I have just $100,000. What can I get in that, right? The market works in both ways. It's all about taking that step to start buying the policy. Because all the CXOs are worried about it, the board members are worried about it, but they don't know when to start, where to start, and how to start, right? So a lot of times, it is that first step that will start improving the market around cyber. And as Hitesh said, a lot of innovation is happening, not just on the policy wording side, but also on how to deal a claim. Because, see, ultimately a policy is a capital, is a contingent capital, right? But when you need it, it needs to work, right? And cyber is one product wherein the claim keep escalating the more time you lose after the event has hit you, right? So as I said, just like any other market, I think it's just this missing middle that has to start adopting this product that will probably solve the issue on the cyber protection gap.
Yeah, thank you, panelists. I think for demystifying this cyber insurance gap, because this is something a lot of people are not able to understand, and they maybe are scared to broach this topic. And as you rightly said, some of the customers may not be going ahead with buying mainly because they may see it as a price issue. But yeah, there could be ways and means where we can tackle that particular issue. And as Hitesh also said, on the supply side, there is a lot of discussions going on how we can improve the supply, which can actually bring down the price to a great extent. So thank you for this insight into this difficult topic, because I think experts like you only will be able to demystify this particular line. Now coming on to Hitesh, I think we talked about natural disasters. We talked about mass health and health protection gap. We talked about cyber. I think what we have left out is crop. I think crop insurance is today a very, very important aspect as far as the general insurance industry is concerned. Thanks mainly to the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. I think today nearly 35% of the cultivable land is covered. Obviously, there is still a lot left to be done. And that's where do you see the scope for more improvement and innovation in this segment to see to it that how we can take it to maybe 50% or 70% kind of a thing?
No, thank you, Ramal sir. Great question again. And Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana has been a phenomenal experiment and example now of public-private partnership. And I think it's become like a case study in, even outside India, of how this can really, how this can be cracked to really hit the penetration. And I know at 35% penetration, we are still not happy. Yeah. And there's a lot to be done. But considering the size of the population and knowing that the 50% of the employable workforce in India is involved in agriculture, I think it's been a great start. And of course, your question on how do we make it better, I think couple of points. One is of course from the supply side, and I think Satpathy already covered about phenomenal use of technology on the crop side. And when we started this, program about 6 years back, it was all manual. Everything was manual. People were going on the farms and they were enrolling the farmers, and then the claims were also getting settled on a manual basis. And today, most of it is technology enabled. Today every farmer insurance is getting uploaded on the portal which is set up by the Ministry of Agriculture. The land records in most of the states are now integrated. So it's very easy to link the right farm with the right land and avoid misuse or abuse of the subsidy that the government is providing. And most importantly, the claims are also settled now based on satellite technology, and there are some states which are relying 100% on satellite-based technology, totally eliminating the manual intervention. And I think what is this doing is, of course, reducing the friction cost, reducing the cost of delivering the scheme, and hence making the scheme more efficient and hence more affordable also for the farmer and the government, from their subsidy perspective. But at the same time, also minimizing a lot of abuse and frauds, that we used to see in this kind of, program. So I think technology as an enabler has already been demonstrated in this program. And I think going to the next level of how we can really now actually make the payout in 5 days or 7 days of the season getting over, so that the farmer doesn't get into the debt, engine again for the winter, from summer to winter and winter to summer. I think that would be a big booster, and I think we are very close to doing that. Secondly, I think some of the states have also kind of universalized it, meaning they are offering to all their farmers. So I think Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, have done this phenomenally well. And I think what has that helped it has marginally increased the subsidy bill for the state governments, but drastically reduced the cost, overall cost of the scheme, because now everybody is covered. So the anti-selection, the abuse is all gone away. So if more states can do that, I think it will really help in further increasing the penetration. And I think combination of the states' initiatives in making it large, broad-based, and on top, I think technology initiatives, which are already done at a rapid scale will also help. Yeah, there are some, I would say, bumps in the way. Few states have remodeled or re-engineered the scheme, which I'm afraid will not be sustainable in the long run. But I'm sure after a couple of calamities, they would realize that this re-engineering of the scheme is not working out, and probably they'll change back. So I think it will be a constant learning also for the state government, because it's a large outlay for them. But at the same time, I think a lot of progress has made, and I can tell you that everybody in the world talks about the Indian scheme, which is really, I would say, a moment of pride for all of us.
Yeah. Now, I think what Prime Minister also in the speech yesterday talked about the DBT. I think this is one great example of direct benefit transfer, where farmers are getting money directly into their bank account, and that's all done through online. And all those leakages which used to be the things of the past are actually no longer there. And I think, as Hitesh and all the other panelists also talked about, one of the things that we are talking about is that how do we increase the penetration of insurance is to improve the affordability of the product. I think if we can make the insurance products more affordable, be it crop, be it motor, or be it this health, I think that will go a long way in increasing the overall penetration of insurance, and also the impact on the economy in case of any natural disasters will also come down drastically. Now, as we come to the end of this panel, I would like to put a question to each one of you. It's the same question. How do you see the role of insurers, brokers, and other intermediaries in evolving to help address this protection gap? You can start.
So, I mean, at Howden, I think one concept that we have sort of been trying to globalize across all the 50 countries that we are present in is that insurance can actually be treated as a force for good. Okay. Right? And there are hundreds of concepts and examples available across the globe where insurance has actually helped economies in a much better fashion. Right? Now, we spoke about protection gap on the life side. but there was an amazing initiative on the PMJJBY, right? I mean, there are, God knows, 25-30% of the overall population which is currently getting covered. No intervention of states. It's just bank-driven. The money goes to them. It gets distributed. There are the whole ecosystem works. Reinsurers, insurers, banks, and the money is straight in the pocket of the beneficiary, right? We spoke about health, right? Now, if I just stay with these two concepts, the health and the life. Now, whatever said and done, there are huge amount of population which has come out of poverty, but there are 40 crore people in the missing middle. There are about 35-40 crore who are still poor. If you're talking about close to 45-50% of the population which is still struggling, and we're still a male-dominated society in terms of the breadwinner of the family, right? And for some reason, if the breadwinner falls ill and they do not have proper resources, because most of the time it is your health expenses are coming from your pocket, right, or savings. Or if the person dies, again, there is nobody to take care of it. And that sort of starts a negative spiral downwards, that the whole family starts going down, and whatever work they have done in the last 10-15 years, it's all gone, right? And that is where I think insurance can actually be a force for good. Now, how can a broker play a role? Now, we have been deliberating a lot of product or process innovations, that so to say. See, it's very difficult to innovate new product unless there are buyers on the other side, right? And the whole ecosystem needs to be established, and we've seen that there is still so much of basic that needs to be done, that you bring exotic products, probably there isn't that big a market for it, right? So what we have started doing is that, let's talk MSME for a minute. We are trying to create a bundled product for MSMEs, right? You go and talk to an MSME who don't even have an insurance manager and say, okay, you're supposed to buy a cyber, and then you have to buy a PI, and then you have to buy a DNO, and then you are property is missing, marine is missing, and he will just simply getting confused as to, boss, mere paas insurance khareedne ke baki bhi kaam hai, right? We are trying to just create a simple narrative that there is a modular product which pretty much takes care of all the insurance requirements of that industry. The person can tick the box. We will tell you what are the mandatory policies for you. We will simply say, whatever you want to buy, just tick box. The more you buy, the lower the premium gets or the higher discount becomes, right? Now, in this, of course, we need partnership with the insurance companies, in certain cases, reinsurance companies as well. But we believe this is a very simple, straight product that is created for an MSME, right? You buy one policy, and all your interests are taken care of. So these are some of the initiatives that we have taken at our side to see how we can bridge it.
I think pretty much what Amit you said, and I'll only take it forward. I think simplifying the products is the key for us from the supply side. I think product innovation will not really help so much because there's only little that you can push the product. So I think making the product simple, making the products understandable, would be the key. Secondly, I think overall, we are also, not the most trusted, kind of partners. Typically as insurers, there's a lot of trust deficit, that comes between the customer and the insurer. I think that is something that we need to bridge by simplifying claims processes, by really asking more questions at the time of buying rather than asking more questions at the time of claims. I think this is a mindset that we need to change. And thirdly, I think awareness is being created. I think the tipping point is reached. Like, again, going back to what Amit said, that the discretionary spend, we are really starting to see now. And lastly, I think also bringing education about, insurance. Today, at a younger age, how can we really inculcate the benefits of insurance, maybe incorporating it into the school curriculum, maybe, catching it young would be really, really helpful. And that's what some of the large economies have also done in the past. And I think probably time for us as well, to do the same. I think combination of all these factors, and then obviously a lot of support from the government. A crop insurance scheme we discussed was a great example. Ayushman Bharat from the health side is again a fantastic example. So I think these impulses will be needed, and then of course the industry needs to take it over from there.
So the last word from you, sir.
So let's talk about the hinterlands actually. It's about 50% of India's land mass, and there the insurers are facing challenge to actually penetrate. So let's as it has been told that the simplification of the solutions has been done and are being done. Now, who will tell the story to these people who are not who are not exposed to something called insurance, who are far away people or who are underdeveloped people and who probably can't afford insurance. So let the people from their masses tell the story. And that education has to go. Now for that, the government of India has done a spectacular job in introducing CSR for the companies. Now what the insurers can do is allocate some CSR for creating that kind of education there and do some for those targeted areas where you want to sell the insurance product. Because it is a push product, it is not a pull one. And you have to push it very nicely there. It's not like they understand this thing. So that is the one part. Second is these areas are heavily dependent on public finance and for example crop insurance. So cross-selling has to be there, and it has to be there in a very, very gentle and very efficient manner. It is being done. I mean, it is being done. Suppose I took a home loan yesterday, and at the same time, the insurance for my house was sold to me, right? So, of course, I can afford some more cost, and I took it. Now, how to cross-sell the financing with insurance and vice versa also? It is a time we should think about vice versa also, insurance along with financing. So this is something the industry can think about. That's what is my take about it.
Thank you, Satpathy. I think that's one of the thoughts I think which the council is also trying to work out, but I think that's still things in the pipeline. So thank you very much, panelists, for your insights into this difficult topic, because I think this is something that we have been trying to find a solution to. And hopefully with all the ideas that have come through, we should be able to get a long-standing solution to all these problems. And maybe in a couple of years' time from now, we could see much more increased penetration and adoption of insurance. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to request my audience to please use this opportunity to connect with our speakers. Please feel free to ask questions. All you need to do is raise your hands and we'll pass around a microphone. We have some exciting gifts for our participants. Yes, sir.
Hi, how are you all? I have a question, and this is as a common consumer, we all know we need insurance, and we have different kind of health, life, motor, etc. One thing which definitely pinches all of us is what you mentioned at the end of the year, the money is gone, right? And which is fine, because we don't want that money to be used. We want that to be gone. But I know that in health, for example, we give sometimes free medical checkups at the end of the year. In motor, I think we're looking at giving some free car services, right? I just want to know from all of you, how do you think this can evolve? How do you think this can become more giving back to the consumer, right? I know there are some companies which have term with life linked, but that becomes very heavy on the premium side, right? And that's not desirable only for a person looking at term insurance. If you could throw some light on how this can be made more appealing for consumers to look at insurance in a more open manner.
So basically, if you see, I think, of course, we'll keep the term separate, because the term is more on the life side. And we are talking about the general insurance, where I think the health comes in. Now, as far as health insurance is concerned, I think today what we also have is a lot of benefits that are inbuilt into the policy. So in the earlier days, whenever you used to have a claim-free year, you used to get a 5% cumulative bonus, which means your sum insured, if it was 1 lakh, increases to 1,05,000. Now, in many cases, you see that the cumulative bonuses have gone up to 50% or even 100% also. So which means for every claim-free year, without paying any additional premium, your sum insured kind of doubles. So where in a general insurance company, we can't refund the money. We are trying to see to it that how we can actually increase your cover for your health insurance, which is in fact saying that, you know, some kind of money is being paid to you virtually. It's basically increasing the sum insured limit. Means had you not had that claim free year, you would have actually bought that cover at a much increased price. So that's the one thing that is coming in. And as we see more competition coming in, a lot of new innovation coming in, I think these are some of the things that will kind of get picked up. And of course, we have the brokers who are going to push us to say that, you know, you need to get in better products, better features and things like that. So that's why I asked Amit to speak.
Just to add to what Rama sir just mentioned, see, most of the time when you're going to utilize a health insurance policy, you are supposed to be hospitalized for 24 hours or above, and then only your policy kickstarts, right? Now, the insurance industry is actually understanding that requirement, and a lot of OPD covers are getting into the market, right? Which is prevention, preventive in nature. It works win-win for both sides, right? The patient doesn't have, the insured doesn't have to go to the hospital, which means you're not unwell. And at the same point in time, it's less impacting on the balance sheet of the insurance companies. Similarly, the point that you mentioned about health checkups and others, we call it flexible benefits, let's say, okay? A lot of time corporates buy it, but now insurance companies are trying to design covers wherein they are also trying to offer it to the individuals, right? Like you and I, if you want to buy the individual policy. So it's a health insurance cover, full-fledged, with OPD or probably some flexible benefits also available in it, that you can go get your health checkup done and so on and so forth, right? So it's something back to you, right? And I mean, not to say this, but unfortunately, the insurance in India has always been treated as an investment product than a risk mitigation product, right? So we have to sort of start demarcating the two things because they're very different, right? So
just to add, you know, there are also a lot of innovations being made on improving your behavior. So there are a lot of health insurance programs where if you demonstrate that you've been regularly using gym, if you demonstrate, you know, that there has been improvement in your health parameters, you get a phenomenal discount or benefits in the subsequent years. Same way in the cars, insurance companies are now putting devices to understand your driving behavior. And if you have accelerated too fast or you accelerated, you know, normally, or your braking, you know, approach has been pretty good, you've not been overspeeding a lot, you've not been using mobile while driving, you know, there is also capabilities now with insurers to check that. Then you get again a lot of benefits when you renew. So these are the, you know, topics which are being utilized by insurance companies to improve your behavior and give you the benefit of being nice customer, you know. So I'm sure this will pick up as we move along.
Hello. So my name is Sachin. I have a question to Amit about cyber insurance. So I run a company, software company, and we opted twice cyber insurance. But each time we get a different quote from the two different insurance company. So is there any framework, guideline? Because challenge is that every time we compare those some assurance, but the premium is very, very different, like 50% difference we got in a premium. So the challenge is that how do we baseline? Because in the health insurance, there is a lot of maturity, but the cyber insurance is very new. So as a company, how do we, you know, look at the data point that this is the right insurance or this is the right premium for that coverage?
So that's where you need a broker.
Amit, I'll answer. If it's Bajaj Allianz, then you buy it.
We are ready because the challenge is that two years we consecutively bought it, and next 2 years we lost it because we realized that there is no differentiator factor, and then the premium is too high from one insurance to other insurance. So we as a company not able to compare the advantage of those
So, see,
policies.
I do not know the background, but I'll just try to add two bits to it. See, first of all, this is not a tariff product, right? Every insurance company has their own treaty partners, their own risk mitigation phenomena, and the kind of investment that they have made in building the infrastructure around providing that cyber protection for a customer, right? So a company which is not invested much in it can probably give you at a cheaper price, but the company who's invested heavily will probably want to charge you for it, right? So that's one place where it could be different. Number two, a company which has faced cyber losses and paid losses versus a company which is not paid losses, again the premium might be different. But it should all boil down to what you are buying. See, you might end up saving a lakh or two, or I don't know what that amount is. But tomorrow, if you see a claim, a company which is more aware, has a better infrastructure, has already seen such claims in the past, would be in a better position to pay you the claims. And that is what you're buying insurance for.
Absolutely great. See, we are really positive. So for the cyber incident, the challenge is that whatever you say that where you did get data as a client, we should have that at least some information available, which is not readily or easily available. That
See,
we
that I agree. And unfortunately, there is no platform which this kind of information can be shared. But I think that is where an interaction with your insurer or the broker would really help. They are in a position to actually put you in touch with your underwriters as well and have this open dialogue as to whether they have seen any claim, paid any claim, what kind of industry.
We had a challenge that they were not aware about this thing. We are more mature than them that know about the cyber insurance. So anyway, but thanks for answering the question.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. We have one more question from the audience member. I would like to pass on the microphone. Yes, sir.
Hi. So my name is Ratish. I have a question about employee wellness. Disclaimer, I am from Watcher Health. My company does employee wellness. But to reassure me, I want to know how do you see employee wellness as a retention tool, as a tool to reduce claim on a group level. So I really want to know your idea on that.
See, I think this issue related to wellness, I think, has been there for, I would say, 8 to 10 years. Initially, it started off with the IT companies actually starting it. Now, slowly we see all the other companies also working on it, because as we see today, as the health insurance is getting more and more expensive, people want to see that how we can do the preventive thing, so that, at least the cost can be either maintained at the same level or it can be brought down. So as Hitesh also talked about, what are the things that can be done to improve the wellness or the health of the individual, which means that somebody who is going to gym regularly, exercising regularly, keeping himself fit, it's good for both of us, because both the insured as well as the insurer is assured that we are not going to get a large claim. So wellness today is becoming more and more increasingly important, and I think all large corporations are making it mandatory for their employees also to kind of, ensure that these activities are actually followed. The challenge that always comes in is the adaptability. I think the adoption is one big challenge, because you can only push your employees or push your people to a certain extent. And how can you keep on daily telling them, no, have you gone to the gym, have you gone to the gym, or have you walked 10,000 steps or 20,000 steps? I think that's the kind of behavioral change that we have to bring about. And once that comes in, I think we as insurers are more than willing to kind of support these activities, because it's good for us. Our claims will come down. From the corporate's point of view, it's good for them, because the employees will fall sick lesser. There will be more productivity and things like that. But it's a journey, and I think it will take some time for us to achieve that kind of level. Maybe Hitesh, you want to talk anything?
Yeah, I mean, on a lighter note, I can also start that more than the wellness, the Zomato data is being more helpful these days. How many times you're eating pizza and how many times you're eating junky food. No, I mean, it's really a lot is happening on the data side. And I think a lot of wellness companies have now begun to, enable health insurance through very intelligent data integration with insurance companies, and we are already seeing a lot of use cases now where all these data elements that are kind of feeding to bring the health insurance at an affordable cost. The challenge that Rama sir mentioned is actually the real one. The adaptability is very low, and I'm sure you realize it yourself when you are selling wellness services. They buy for the first year, but then the renewal is becoming a challenge. Persistence is becoming a challenge. It's becoming a leaky bucket. And I think, again, it's linked to our discretionary income, our lifestyle changes, and our economy being at the cusp of it. And I think it's just around the corner. And the good thing is, on the supply side, a lot of this is already ready. The moment we see more usages and adaptability, I think the real advantage or the real benefits will be started to be seen in this area.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. What a pleasure to have with us our esteemed panelists. Let's hear a round of applause for them. And may I request all of you to please connect with them a little later in case you have any more questions. And once again, a big thank you to the entire Alliance for being the partner for this very special session. Thank you so very much. Been a pleasure having you here.